So there's been a big deal made about a lot of young men, especially young athletes, who are black and who are dating women of other ethnicities. Recently, there was a draft, a pro um, ball player draft, NFL draft in specific, where a lot of the young men who were pictured, the top 30 to NFL, were videotaped interacting with their girlfriends, assuming, or love interest. And it was noted by the viewers that a lot of these women were white or non-black. And this seems to be a big uproar, and I hear men on the internet talking about or trying to explain why it is that black men prefer white women. Mind you, all of this is taking place in the United States. I also saw a dating show where apparently 4 white women, when presenting with the choice of about a dozen men, white and black, they literally walked past the white men and chose the black men. And so a lot of black men are taking pride in that. They're taking pride in the fact that white women are now choosing them. And, as if that is somehow some sort of accomplishment, as if none of these women are modern women, as none of these women are westernized women, as though none of these women have been affected by fourth wave feminism. And, I took the time to comment and remind black men specifically that we have an entire movement called the divester movement, the swirler movement, where black women are purposely overlooking black men, viable black men who could be their husbands and their love interests, and choosing white men solely because they're white. And of course, there's a cohort of white men that say, yeah, see. And, to me and to most black men, that sounds ridiculous because we have an innate knowledge of the current African American woman here in the United States. And by many accounts, she is not who she used to be. I say all that to say, what is the point of thinking that you're one-upping another group of men because you're able to, we'll say, pull the women who are of that ethnicity or race, especially considering, well, realistically, the purpose, considering, I should say, not especially, but considering those men are telling you exactly the issues that they're having, and they're very similar, and they have the same source of problems, or the same problems are stemming from the same source that you're dealing with. All men in America, irrespective of your race or ethnicity, we are dealing with a nation of 304s. Now, there's a word that rhymes with go that I'm not going to say, but we're dealing with a nation of 304s. All of them, whether they're black, whether they're white, all of them are an issue in modern time. Modern women does not exclude any group of women because of their ethnicity. It is like 2 trash men fighting over whose pile of trash is better. Now, of course, I don't want people to say I'm comparing women to trash or all women to trash. However, if a person discarded a group of women for another, and then another man comes along and picks up that discarded refuse and material, what does that make him? And the idea that you would be proud of that, just think about that. Black men are getting women who white men are refusing to marry, who are abandoning, who have a single mother out of wedlock birth rate, and they think they're getting a prize. On the flip side, you have white men who are able to bag or date and marry black women who think that black men are saying, I'm leaving them alone, to the tune of 51% of black men aren't married and don't have children. And then you have another 20% of black men who are just impregnating them and leaving them. And then 31% of black men who are married. But of that 31%, approximately 25% of that 31% aren't even married to black women. So what does that tell you? What it tells you is that both of these groups of men see their women as unworthy of marriage. And yet, when you pick one up, it's though you think you have a brand new, spanking, right off the showroom floor luxury vehicle, when in reality, you just have another man's refuse. And so the message today, fellas, is that you're falling into a trap. You're falling into the game that women want you to play. They want you to compete over them. They want you to up their value. That way, even a woman who should not have a large amount of value, who shouldn't have a great value, her value automatically increases because now there's a group of men from a foreign or different ethnicity who thinks that she's worthwhile. See, the white man wants me. See, these black guys want me. It's all a game to pit men against each other, to try to foster some sort of competition. And it's easily done. It is something that women have done from the beginning of time. You will often hear women say or dictate what a real man is. Oh, this man is doing that. If they can stay within their race, or they can talk about somebody from another race. But the bottom line is, it's an attempt to shame you into being a more productive utility. It's an attempt to shame you into expending more time, energy, and resources purchasing them more things, buying bigger houses, more expensive cars, more expensive clothes, more expensive jewelry, all of these luxury items that are a sign of wealth and status that men typically go out and conquer and destroy and cultivate and take over so that they can then run home and give to women, the women of their ethnicity, whatever woman is in their life. But at the end of the day, what you're doing, fellas, is you are playing into their game, as opposed to realizing that whether or not you got one who's loud talking and violent and difficult to get along with on one hand, or whether or not you have another one who's sneaky and shisty and who has become the mother of feminism, which undermines men's rights in general, you still are dealing with modern women on either side. So what is one man to tell another man that he has the prize? Let's go back in history. Not 100 years, not 1,000 years, but about 1,000,000 years. And I want to talk to you all about a subject called dimorphism. Okay, this is when a species separates into or sexual dimorphism, when a species separates into two distinct groups via sex, male and female. This environmental or this developmental occurrence is a result of the environment. There needed to be dimorphism in a species so that that species would have a better chance of survival. And the way that occurs is you set one half of the sex, one half of the species to do a certain number of vital tasks which are necessary for survival, and you get another half of the species which is set to do another set of tasks which are necessary for survival. Females become impregnated, they give birth, they nurture the offspring. The male impregnates the female after a courtship period, and then he provides sustenance and food for the female while she's in a vulnerable state, as either while she's actively mothering the children or while the children or the offspring are developing within her. After that, the man also provides safety and ensures the community is safe from predators. He also secures food and other resources which are necessary. And so she has an opportunity to dedicate her time to nurturing the offspring. So in doing so, dimorphism helps the species survive. It is an evolutionary occurrence that's happened, and it has helped human beings survive millions of years after we moved away from being a one-cell organism to multi-cell organisms, to separating into two different sexes, male and female. From that sprang society. In society and civilization, whether it be from those groups of individuals who are living out in the wilderness in groups of 50 to 150, bottom line is the biology dictated the role that the male and the female played. And invariably, women, in order to inspire, and I use the word inspire for lack of a better term, but in order to inspire their male to be more productive than the other males in the vicinity, she would use all sorts of tactics, both food, sex, shaming language when necessary, things that she could use to motivate this person, playing upon your ego. Things like, well, you know, John and his family have a big house, whereas we have a small house. John's family drives a big car, and we have a little tiny car. And this is supposed to shame the man into being more productive, because at the end of the day, fellas, as dimorphism goes, you as a man are designed to be a utility. Your job in the average female's mind, and even in the scope of nature, is to fight and defend and die if you have to, defending your offspring and your mate. That's why you have bigger muscles. That's why you're stronger. Your job is to fight and die and hunt if you have to, hunting, so that you can feed your family. This is your job. You are the first line of defense. You are the one who gets up in the middle of the night when you hear a loud bang downstairs. It's your job. That's the way nature is dictated. That's the way women see you. And irrespective of what they say, they see you as a utility. They see you as a necessary evil, so as to ensure their survival and the survival of their offspring. That is why it is often said that men love their wives and wives love their children. And the most that you could expect from a woman in real life is respect. Not love, because she's not willing to sacrifice her life for you like she is her children. I've never heard of a woman sacrificing her life and fighting to the death for her husband. But on very many occasions in all species across the animal kingdom, we often see women, females fighting and willing to die and putting their lives in danger for their offspring. And that's how it works. And so women who have fostered competition between men and who are able to convince their man through whatever means, through shaming, through guilt, through sex, through these other tools that they're given, they were able to get more productive men. More productive men means more stuff, more likelihood of survival. And so that natural outcropping of that was competitiveness that exists between men. The more productive you are as a man, the more women you get, the higher quality women you get. And that outcropped into everything you see. This is the source of tribalism. And tribalism on a greater mass scale is racism. This is where this comes from. Our group is better than yours. Our group is more important. Yeah, mom is raising her children. This is part of the culture. Our group is better than their group. Of course, she has an incentive to say that, because if you're better than that group, then you're supposed to be more productive than that group. And if you're supposed to be more productive than that group, and you are more productive than that group, because you're told that you're supposed to be, and therefore you think, therefore you are, you typically become more productive. And you find a way to be more productive. And that's where the entitlement comes in. I'm supposed to be, and therefore I shall be, even if it means I have to steal, rob, or whatever, because entitlement tells me I'm better than them. And so because I'm better than them, I don't have to honor their rights. I can treat them like I would treat a cockroach or an ant. It's just how things should be. But this is the source of it. And so now when we look at on the individual level, you have men who are competing, who are dying, who are fighting to get resources and gather resources for their women. The same women with the same female nature. And now when you guys decide to swap women, you think you've done something. Fellas, let me explain something to you. We've reached a different time period. We've reached a time period where men are not required to go out and hunt and kill and protect women. We have developed technology, which has for the most part usurped our duties. We as men have developed technology which allows for the traditional roles that men have played throughout the duration of humanity to be less necessary. They don't need you as a protector, per se, because technology is such that we have weapons or tools that women can use to protect themselves in the form of firearms, knives, mace, pepper spray. They can always call a group of men via the police to come and enforce their rights. We have society, we have judicial systems so they can enforce their rights. So they don't need a man to come in and enforce their rights for them. They have grocery stores, so they don't need you to go out and kill a moose, kill a buffalo, skin it and bring it home. No, they can go right down there to that local H-E-B, Walmart, Kroger, Costco, Piggly Wiggly, and procure whatever food they need. On top of that, we've provided a system, the monetary system, where they don't actually need to exchange labor for goods in the barter system. They can go, they can make money at a job, they can take that money, and with that money, they can go procure the things they need, food, shelter, whatever. It's to the point now, the woman don't even need the man to help them protect their children. Yeah, ideally, it's a great setting to have a mother and a father in a relationship. But as the Duluth model demonstrates, and I believe I'm using that term correctly, but there's a model out there that says women dictate the terms of the relationship. They are the ones that determine whether or not a man or the metrics of a relationship. If they want a man, they'll have a man. If they don't, they won't. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's the Duluth model, but I'll look it up. But the bottom line is women are the ones who determine the characteristics of the relationship. So at the point where they determine they don't need a man anymore, they get rid of the men. And that's why you have 80% of children born out of wedlock. Do you think these women, if they wanted to have men or if men were necessary, if we were living in a third world country, you think we'd have such a high rate, especially when there was no men to come and protect them? No men to provide for them. They didn't have the state. Not so much. And you wonder why women in other countries, especially developing countries, are so cooperative and fit and feminine? Because they have to be. Because they still need men, and the competition is stiff. In the United States, it is not necessary. And I know it's ideal to have a relationship, especially one involving children where there is both a male and a female, but for the most part, you are not necessary. And so we've gotten to a point in society where men are not necessary. And women have been telling us that for decades now, centuries almost. They've been telling you, I'm strong, independent, and don't need a man. I'm strong, independent, and don't need a man. Because I have technology that men invented, which makes men obsolete. And so what I suggest you fellas do is embrace that. Drizzle, drizzle. Embrace the fact that you can now enter into your soft guy era, because the technology that the men who came before you created, the technology that you utilize yourself has made you as a man obsolete. There's no need for you to put your life on the line hunting down some buffalo. There's no need for you to compete with other men for the love of these women, because you're all going to get the same treatment. The love, the attention, the affection that this woman gives one man, it's not because she loved you, it's because she needed you. And so if you find that women aren't doing that anymore, it's because they don't need you. They don't see you as a necessary utility. In fact, in a society where women don't need men, they can pick and choose the top 10% of men that they want to impregnate them, that they find the most attractive. And that's what you see happening. The 80-20 rule, where it is determined that 80% of the women look for the attention of 20% of the men, it's probably more like the 10-90 rule at this point. And this is the luxury that women have. So fellas, why are you killing yourselves? Why are you talking about other men? Because you're able to pick their trash up and take it home with you. And you're still subject to the same divorce laws. You're still subject to the same child support laws and the same child custody laws in these Western countries. Did you really get a prize? Because there's two places that all women are the same color. That's when the light goes off in the bedroom and in the courtroom. In those two rooms, women are the same color. When you go to court with your black wife and you're a white man, you get Robert De Niro. When you go to court with your white wife and you're a black man, there's a list. You're all going to get hammered because they're all Western women. They're all modern women, and they all benefit from the same system that men have created using the technology that men have invented to deem men obsolete. And yet you guys are still fighting each other. You guys are still high-fiving each other because your group of men was able to get this other group of men's trash. Think about that. And women are sitting back saying, yeah, that's right, you did something. Bravo. And at the end of the day, they're all on the same side against you. I have a saying, it's in my books, Rules to Live By. Women always stick together except when they don't. And the idea that you're trying to one up one group of men, and I'm talking to the white guys and the black guys and all the guys, you think you're one-upping another group of men because you're able to get the refuse from their group. Do you think those women, if they could get the best of their group, they would choose you? Let's just be honest with each other, fellas. Do you think that if this black woman could get an Idris Elba, she would choose you, Mr. White fella? Hey, Mr. Black fella, do you think that if that white woman you're dating could end up with a Bill Gates, you think she'd choose you? No. But the idea that you think you get a prize falls into the brainwashing or falls into the trap that these women want you to. Fellas, stop fighting each other. I think one of the best things men could do is sit back and ask themselves, why am I fighting this fellow man, this other man, and he's dealing with the same thing that we're dealing with over here in these Western countries? Where does this stem from? Where did this idea that I have to compete with this other group of men stem from? Why am I trying to get these resources anyway? And if you really dig deep into it, your primary driving force and the primary driving force behind society and its development was to impress these women and make them happy, and in some cases get them to shut up and stop nagging you. That's your primary motivation. The primary motivation for buying bigger houses and pushing society forward and technology and making life easier is that you want to accomplish something. You want to be extraordinary. You want to make money. You want to be technologically savvy so that you can impress the women, get more women, get higher caliber women. This has been man's primary motivation, and now you've done such a good job that the women don't even need you anymore. They got it from there. And yet you're still fighting with other men. You're fighting with other men to be the utility of women. I'm just saying, it's right there for you. You're fighting, let me say, you're fighting with other men to be the utility of women. You think it's something special that you were able to take this group of men's women and they're just going to use you as a utility just like your group of women are using you. You think you got something special? Yeah, okay. Something to think about. I think, fellas, you need to take the opportunity to realize that we're all in the same basket, headed to hell. I think that you need to recognize and see this for what it is. This whole soft guy era movement is nothing more than freedom. You're free now. You're no longer obligated to be women's utilities. You're no longer obligated to allow yourself to be used in exchange for validation and praise. You don't have to sacrifice your dreams and your ambitions and your wishes in order to get married, have children, help raise these children, spend your lifespan, your very short lifespan here on this planet, trying to buy things and material things for women, trying to improve society for women, because they really don't care. They're just going to use you up and move on to the next one. And you're definitely not getting a prize by exchanging a black overseer or a Latina overseer or an Asian overseer for a white one, or vice versa.